Greetings, Internet! My name is Erica. Today, we're going to be talking about romance and tropes and things that make good stories and things that make not so great stories. Every so often on the internet, memes go around, or like downloadable things go around where you can you see a bunch of things and you tell other people whether you like those things or not. And so today I've pulled a romance tropes fill the jars version, which tropes you do and do not like, and I'm going to kind of talk through these. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just going to talk a little bit about each of these tropes. So let's get started. The first one we have here is the ever so classic friends to lovers romance trope. This is one of my favorites. I really don't understand a romance if it's not like friends to lovers, and that's just like me, that's just like partly me. That's how I understand romance. But additionally, I just think it's very fun when people who have loved each other in a very real way and a very deep way learn to express that love differently and express what they want out of a relationship in a different way. I feel like going from friends to lovers is a very realistic and malleable form of relationship building, and so I really enjoy that dynamic. And for me, it's one of my favorite things to just watch people's experiences in a relationship and the dynamic they have with another person change based on the outline of the story, or the way that they have changed as individuals, and seeing that relationship grow and change over time is just really interesting to me. The next one we have is the slow burn trope. This is mostly I think the most tantalizing slow burn is when you know that two characters are going to end up together, but you just want to watch them struggle. It's really nice to read some solid slow burn. Along with friends to lovers, this is one of my favorites because I think it's really fun and deeply emotional and deeply human to watch two people slowly grow into their feelings and slowly come to terms with the sort of agony of not knowing what the other person feels. And yeah, just watching that grow over time is really satisfying. I don't think there's I can't imagine a single person who's not into slow burn, and yet there are so many books that just have characters rush into romances when there's so much possibility, especially in longer series, for characters to just build up this romance over time. Some of the best examples of slow burn happen in fan fiction, just because in fanfiction you have unlimited space, you have as much space as you have capacity to tell the story. Where in a lot of these books, it can't be like that, because the book only has a certain number of words, a certain number of pages in order to tell the full story, and so it can be really hard to tell a full love story in a very short period of time. And so we get these approximations, I think. We get these kind of, what I see as the very, very typical especially in YA fantasy, this very, very typical romance plot where the characters are paired together in some way, shape, or form, maybe against their will, or maybe just by coincidence. Maybe they're strangers, maybe they're acquaintances, maybe they're enemies, whatever. And they as they go through their adventure together, they start to develop feelings but have to suppress them for the greater plot, more or less. And then they have a very vulnerable bonding moment where they learn to see past the exterior that the other person has and become vulnerable together. And then the stakes of the overall plot rise very quickly, and there's a quick romance, kiss, sex scene, whatever, depending on the level of intensity and level of explicitness and level and age level of the book. And then yeah, the characters are suddenly madly in love with each other, and while they go through their individual struggles, they're kind of assumed from then on to be very, very close and very, very tight-knit. And that's the romance arc in a lot of books. And so while it has some elements of the slow burn, the needing to suppress the feelings in order to face the bigger challenges, and a very supposedly satisfying moment towards the end where they reach that resolution, it's often not slow enough for me. I really, really like to see characters develop as individuals, and then develop as individuals closer and closer together. And so I think slow burn, same way with friends to lovers, really, you really get to see the individual characters as people before they become individuals in this unit or in this couple. Whew, that's a long time explaining slow burn, but it does go to show why I absolutely hate the next pairing trope, which is the insta-love trope. And there are some exceptions, which I'll get to in a second, but for the most part, I hate insta-love because I don't get it. First and foremost, that's it. I don't get it. I don't understand how it happens. A part of me feels like infatuation is a sort of very, very individual feeling. That feeling of falling in love and like the sort of like pining and stuff, in a lot of ways, if it's with a stranger, it's like, it's an individual feeling. It's a feeling that you don't really need the other person in order to feel. You're like expressing, you're like taking out your own obsession and desires on another person, and you're projecting so many things upon another person that they really do become like an objectified like thing for you to desire, and that feeling of desire is a very like personal internal feeling, and that's kind of how I feel insta-love plays out. Characters can't be fully in love and like actually understand each other and be compatible in an insta-love dynamic. What insta-love does really is it like two characters have like intense personal feelings of like desire and infatuation and kind of like obsession and a projection of what they want to be, and they put it on that other person. And so as a romance trope, I don't think it is realistic. Like, I don't think that you can actually be like fully in love with someone until you really get to know them. When characters are put in this insta-love situation, it doesn't really, like, I don't really believe it. I don't really believe that they're in love. I believe that the characters have an intense like desire to desire and like a desire to be desired. This is getting very Lacanian, so I'm gonna quickly move on by saying like instances where I think insta-love can work really well. One of those is when the insta-love is not actually portrayed as the foundation of a real relationship. When it's portrayed as an experience that the character is going through on their own and something that they're exploring. This is why I really love Crier's War. Crier's War has this moment of intense insta-love where one of the characters looks at the other and is like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so many things and I don't know what they are. That's less of a plot, like a romance plot about the two characters becoming like perfect soulmates or whatever, and more a plot about one of the characters trying to figure out what their own feelings of infatuation are and what their own feelings of desire and romantic affection are for the first time. Like, this is a character who's never experienced those things. And so the journey we see is not about these two characters fighting to keep their perfect soulmate, destiny-ridden love together. It's about them figuring out what these feelings are, what these feelings of infatuation are for the first time. That's why it works. Then you have books where it doesn't work, where the characters meet under circumstances where they fall in love immediately, and then we are given so much inner monologue where the character professes their love over and over again and says like, this person is the only thing I have to live, and it's not believable because that's like those feelings of intense like self-sacrifice and pain and obsession are all felt internally, and so it does not make for a compelling motivation for the characters. This is my problem with Strange the Dreamer. So next we have the hate to love / enemies to lovers trope. I have mixed feelings on this one. Again, it has to be done really well. Like, I think it's definitely so interesting to watch people who are antagonistic towards each other coming to find that they have common ground between them and like making up for their kind of past faults and like the things that they didn't like each other at first by finding a new pocket of vulnerability and a pocket of common ground between them. And then what they're really doing is growing to become friends and growing to become more than friends in a very slow process. I don't really find relationships where they simultaneously hate and love each other very compelling at all. I feel like that's really not like a romantic affection. It's similar to infatuation, where it's like a very personal feeling. It's kind of like a self-destructive sort of feeling, and it's often very like, it's often coded in these very like sexual terms, and so it doesn't really like compel me to believe in these characters' relationships. It, I think, can work very well if the character is using that like relationship and that like weird complex dynamic with feelings as a way to explore what they're feeling by themselves. I think that makes sense. But then again, you're getting into what the character's motivations are as opposed to what the like relationship stakes are, if that makes sense. Oh, the thing with enemies to lovers that I cannot stand is when enemies to lovers is used as like a like blanket term to cover a actually abusive relationship, or a relationship where the characters are like actually trying to kill each other, like, or actually trying to kill the other's like friends and family. Like, that's not foundation for a relationship at all, and it shouldn't be like called enemies to lovers. That's like some weird self-destructive abusive behavior right there, and I'm not a fan of that. A couple of these are very small, so I'm going to save them for the end and go to the next big one, which is forbidden love. Yeah, I said I was like 2/3 of the way a fan of this because I think forbidden love can be really interesting when the two characters really have some chemistry and have some common ground together, and when they are coming together in this forbidden relationship for bigger reasons than just their romance, you know? If they're going to take like risks and they're going to move to like unite the sides of whatever conflict they're on opposite sides of, I think there needs to be a bigger reason than just, oh, I want to bone this person. Let's talk about one of the most iconic Disney movies of all time, the best Disney sequel that there's ever been, which is Lion King 2. Lion King 2 follows a forbidden love trope, but the two main characters in this relationship, Kovu and Kiara, are friends first and understand each other as individuals first before they develop any sort of like romantic feelings for one another, and before they decide that like the war between their brides are insignificant, and they've used that their like love connection in order to unite bigger groups of their family and friends. And that was very compelling and believable because the two found common ground and found a friendship and built a friendship before they even started with the love stuff. And they started to understand the other's point of view and like why the whole like conflict itself was stupid. And so at the end, when they come together and fight, they're not fighting for each other at all. They're fighting for the peace and unity of the people that they love, lions that they love outside of just each other. That's why it's good. The next couple I'm going to run through pretty quickly because this is getting a little long, and they're smaller things. So here we have a trope of using nicknames. Can be very good, can be entirely neutral. I think nicknames have to be like very clever. I think nicknames are a really good way to show the characters being casual with one another, and I really enjoy them if they're done correctly. And it's not necessarily like the most swoon-worthy thing if the nickname has no like purpose or meaning. I think the nickname needs to be like a joke between them and less like an affectionate, like I'm not into like affectionate pet names. Like I'm not into the roguish character calling the like serious or demure character like sweetheart through the whole book, because that's just like, who cares? I am into like unique nicknames that are an inside joke between the characters. The next one is assuming your feelings are unrequited. For me, this goes with like the slow burn trope. Like, yes, there are slow burn romances where both people fall simultaneously and they're aware of it, but I think it's very fun when the characters assume that their feelings are unrequited, and so they go through this whole emotional journey about whether or not they're gonna like keep their feelings secret, or whether they're going to tell their feelings anyways, or whether they're going to try unsuccessfully to move on. Those sorts of things, all very interesting, all can offer us huge insights into the individual characters, which is again one of the reasons why I really like watching characters fall in love. Then we have love triangles. Love triangles can be good, can be terrible. I think a love triangle can work if the two characters kind of at opposing points of the triangle are real people. I think if those characters are just like representations of choices the character could make, like stay with your family or try a new life, and do things the morally good way and do things the fun way, you know, like there are always like two different paths, and the love interests are usually like representative of two different paths and not actually people. I'm like struggling to think of how if love triangles actually do work. I think they work if characters are really not sure of themselves at the beginning, but I think they need to end in a point where the characters are figuring out healthy ways to be together and to be like friends or enemies. Like, I'm not a real big fan of the spurned lover just kind of being like written off as the spurned lover. Like, I want them to have some other character traits. I want them to get over or adjust to their feelings and adjust to having lost. Next one is about second chances. So second chances, I think I'm more of a big fan of second chances in found family narratives than I am in romances. I think characters who have been equally wronged and like who mess up but are kind of on like equal terms in terms of power dynamic, I think that works. I think giving the character a second chance when they've done nothing but like demonstrated bad behavior and are like not making any steps to reform their behavior, that's when it like becomes no longer romantic. Like, second chances need to be worked as a way for two characters to come together and like offer each other redemption and forgiveness and in a way forgive themselves, and can't be like, let's give everybody a second chance because like it's romantic. Like, it needs to be done where the characters are both hurting and they're both trying to like improve themselves and work on themselves in order to give something more to the other person. The last one on this list is the like super grumpy character paired with super like sunny, happy-go-lucky sunshine character. I think this is a good ship. Like, let's be fair. This is a very good trope and a very good dynamic. I think it's not the only dynamic that can be really good. I think the point of this and like the reason people like it so much is just because of the idea of two opposites like completing each other and finding things that kind of bring out a different side of them, and that's really appealing no matter what the type of couple is. For me, I really like loud and quiet people together. Like, I really think the like calming atmosphere of a very quiet person paired with the kind of like nonstop energy of a loud person and watching how those two like adore each other, that's really entertaining to me. That's a good ship. I also really like when characters that are kind of exaggerated in that way, like the grumpy character and the sunshine character, or the like loud character and the quiet character, I like when they get a chance to switch roles when in the company of just one another. Like, one of my favorite things to write is the loud character and the quiet character who become the opposite thing when they're in private. So like the loud character just sits and listens while the quiet character goes on long rants when it's just the two of them. Big fan of that. So those are 10 romance tropes, just like a happy little discussion of them. Let me know what you think of my opinions. Like, romance is a very tricky thing and a lot of people have very different opinions on what they like. I think about romance too much because I have very like strict criteria for it, like for myself, but I'm curious to see how other people completely disagree with me. The cool thing about memes like this is that everybody has their own opinion, and that's really fun. I will hopefully see you guys again shortly. I have a few other ideas for things to talk about, and I just have to psych myself up to edit video again. So take care everyone, and I will see you next time.